In recent years, in the Latin Rite, the western lung of the Church, the devotion of Eucharistic Adoration has made a comeback, so to speak. It's become very, very popular, and rightly so. But the reason why it has is for two reasons, actually, for two things that are missing. And one of the reasons why there's a call for Eucharistic renewal, especially in the western lung of the Church. The two things missing was the sense of the mystical, of mystical prayer, mystical experience. The second thing is that sense of the reverence of the Eucharist. So people now can come before the presence of the Eucharist, the real presence, in a church or in a chapel that is designed for Eucharistic adoration, and be in the silent presence of the real presence of God. It's a mystical experience. It's a desire for mystical prayer. Oftentimes, Latin Rite Catholics ask us Eastern Catholics, do you have Eucharistic adoration? Well, we don't have it in the way that the Latin Rite does. However, what we do have is this. On our altar, the altar of sacrifice, the main altar, is always the tabernacle. We're peeking through the icon screen into the sanctuary here of this church. There is the tabernacle, always there, never moves. And in that tabernacle is the presence of the Eucharist, in other words, the consecrated bread. It is always there. So the consecrated bread, the real presence, is always present in our churches. It's just that we don't expose it. But what we do have, in addition to the real presence of the Eucharist in the tabernacle, on the altar at all times, is the rest of the iconography and architecture of the church, which sets up a place of this contemplative mystical prayer. In other words, the prayer before the Eucharist in the Eastern churches is a little bit more what we might call diffusive. It kind of surrounds you. The iconography, the Eucharist in the tabernacle, is all part of a whole of, if you want to use the term, Eucharistic adoration. In the Latin Rite, it's a little bit more singular focus, where they actually have the Eucharist in the monstrance, in a chapel for adoration, or in the church itself. So, different ways to arrive at the same point, and that point is the sense of the mystical, of mystical contemplative prayer, and of the real presence of the Eucharist.